All right, so we're back to day 2 of our article. And again, we start off with the description, or we call this a scenario.
Okay.
So we see Roxy and Shia are walking around. So they're exploring this city, they're exploring the future. They want to see what is different from 20 years ago now and 20 years ago before.
Right, and they had met, remember, a tour guide robot named Daniil, so maybe Daniil is showing them around. But yeah, if you're in a new city, especially if you're in your old city, but in the future, you would definitely want to look around and see what's there. See if your house is still there.
Yeah.
See if your school's still open.
That's true.
See if your favorite ice cream shop is still in business. See if they even have ice cream in the future. Anyway, Shia's looking around and he says, well, something I'm sure is true. He says, our city looks very different in the future. Absolutely, the city would look different 20 years in the future. You might talk to an older person about what Taipei or Kaohsiung looked like 20 years in the past, and they'd probably say, oh, it's very different because cities change. City is spelled C-I-T-Y. That's C-I-T-Y, city. A city is a place where many, many people will live and work close together. Cities are places that are away from the country. If you have a city, you don't have the countryside. They're sort of opposites of each other. And a city is the largest grouping of people we usually talk about when we're talking about places where people live together. You might have a village, and then a town, and then a city. Cities would be, 50,000, 100,000 people or more. Some cities like Tokyo have 20, 30 million people. And in a city, you'll find all sorts of people, all sorts of homes, all sorts of jobs. But the idea is lots and lots of people living close together in a city. For example, Jasper lives in the city of Paris. Jasper lives in the city of Paris.
Okay, so they're looking around the city.
Yeah,
and
things
Roxy,
have changed.
Yeah, lots of things have changed, I would suppose. And Roxy has a suggestion. She says, can we go to our house?
Right.
That's a really good idea because you want to see, is your house even still there? And she says, I miss mom and dad.
Oh, maybe they're
too much time traveling.
That's right, and maybe they're hoping that their mother and father might still be there, or maybe some neighbors that they remember. And Shia says, okay, and then he says something that I think you would worry about. I hope, he says, they still live there. They still live there. I hope they still live there is what Shia says. Still is spelled S-T-I-L-L. The word still, S-T-I-L-L. It's one of our featured words, so let's find out more about it. Still here is being used as an adverb, and we use still to talk about actions that are continuing to go on after a fairly long period of time. So for example, if your friend is watching TV and then 3 hours later they're also watching TV and they haven't stopped, you'd say you're still watching TV. This action, you watching TV, continues to go on, all right? So we're talking about something that is taking place over time, and you're pointing out that the time is a little bit long. It's a little bit maybe too long, or something a little bit unusual is happening because this action continues to go on. For example, I ate a big sandwich for lunch, but I'm still hungry. I ate a big sandwich for lunch, but I'm still hungry. I continue to be hungry even after having that monster sandwich. What's going on?
I have that problem too. Sometimes after I eat dinner or lunch, I still feel hungry.
You still feel hungry. That's right. You shouldn't. The hunger should have stopped, but it continues. Very strange. Maybe you need to eat bigger sandwiches or have soup with your sandwich.
Oh, that's very filling. I love that.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. So next in the article, another thing happens to them. So we're seeing another description.
Okay. Where are they going now? What's going on?
Roxy and Shia get to their street.
Oh, so they are going back home.
Yeah, they're going back home to see if their parents are still there, and they reach their street. Street is also a power word. It's spelled S-T-R-E-E-T, street. A street is a road in a city or town. It has houses on both sides. Sometimes there's even buildings as well. So in a city, we have many different streets, roads, and alleys. Okay, a street is usually the main road. For example, we can say, Look both ways before you cross the street. Look both ways before you cross the street.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned streets, roads, alleys, lanes. We also have avenues,
right?
Boulevards. Many different names for things like streets. So if you're looking at a map in a Western country, be careful because just like in Taiwan, there's a difference between a street and a road. You don't want to get lost, but all of them are designed for driving down. So as they're walking down the street, Roxy notices something. She's looking ahead of them a little distance, and she says, someone's coming out of our house. So someone is leaving or exiting or coming out of the door to their house. Maybe that's someone they know. Maybe it's their mom or dad.
Maybe it's their parents. And then Shia asks also a very good question. He wants to know, who is it?
Yeah.
Okay, is it their parents? Is it a stranger?
Right.
Is there someone new living in their house?
So Roxy's looking, and it's a little far away, so she can't exactly tell, but she says there's a man and a woman. They look around 30 years old. They look around 30 years old. Yeah, but adults. And Roxy and Shia definitely aren't that old.
And then as Shia and Roxy are looking closely, Shia says, Roxy, that's us. So they notice that these people look like them. So they're looking at a future versions of themselves.
So that's them in 20 years.
Yeah.
Roxy and Shia are 10 now, but in 20 years they'll be 30. They'll be those people. But wait a minute, in these time travel stories, you can't meet yourself. Right? Don't they always say that's something that can never happen? They should be careful here. But Roxy's looking more carefully. She's not sure that it's us, that it's them. That's a little weird. So she says they are two old people. They're 30 years old. They're so old. It must be mom and dad, she says. Right. Mom and dad. They're older people. Let's surprise them and give them a hug, is her idea. Well, that would be a big surprise, wouldn't it?
A huge surprise. If someone were to visit me from the past or my old version of the past, I think I would definitely freak out.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So she says that it must be mom and dad. Let's take a look at our word power word surprise. S-U-R-P-R-I-S-E. Surprise. Surprise! Okay, so surprise is a verb and it means to cause someone to feel surprised. So to give them kind of a wow, hi. Okay, we can use it in a sentence like this. William arrived a day earlier to surprise his family. William arrived a day earlier to surprise his family.
Very, very interesting. And of course, they wanted to give their mom and dad a hug. A hug is when you put your arms around someone because you care about them, because you're friends, because you're being friendly. Maybe you're trying to protect them, right? Kids like to be hugged when they're scared or something like that. But it means you're putting your arms around someone who is close to you, who you care about. Well, Shia is a little bit nervous about running over and hugging some people they might not know.
Yeah.
So he says, we can't. We can't just run over, surprise them, and hug them, as he says. I think this is a good thing to think about. The surprise might scare them to death. Absolutely. If you get scared, I think I'd be pretty scared. If you get scared to death, you get so shocked, so surprised, that the idea is your heart would stop. I think it's actually possible.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, it's actually possible, but it's an expression we use very, very frequently to scare someone to death, to give them a big, shocking surprise.
Yeah.
And then Shia says we have to get back to our own time. Yes, they have to return to their own time before they scare anyone to death, which, again, would be bad.
I think so. You can also think about scared to death as, have you ever been inside a haunted house?
Yeah.
Do you think they're scary?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I got scared to death.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've been in any good haunted houses.
Oh, I went to the one at Universal Studios.
Oh, that's probably a good one.
I was scared to death.
Okay, I went to the one at Ulai Waterfall.
Oh.
It had monkeys who looked like they were kind of sick.
Ew.
It wasn't scary.
Okay, so I know what it feels like to be scared to death. So I think before they do this, they have to really think about what and how this could affect the future. Like there's something called the butterfly effect.
The butterfly, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Like if a butterfly moves its wings, it moves other things and other things happen. Okay. So you're saying even if they do a little thing like hug or surprise their parents, it could have a big effect that they don't understand. Well, that's true. They always say that in those time travel movies. When you're meeting people you know, be very careful because it could have major problems. It could make major problems. Anyways, Roxy says, okay, I was excited before, but now I just want to go home. That's a good point. Traveling through time must fill you with all these weird feelings, and there's so much to think about. This is not your normal holiday.
And it must be tiring to go from one time to another time, and they're still unable to get home. So I feel like, yes, maybe Roxy is definitely kind of,
it would be
her
safer to
excitement
get
is going
home
down.
too. Yeah.
So that's why Roxy and Shia, what they decide to do is, it says Roxy and Shia go back to the time machine and hit the button again. So they think they've had enough. It's time for them to go. When you hit a button, it's basically like a small part of a machine, maybe in the shape of a circle or a square. So when you push this button, it causes the machine to do something. Okay, for example, like on an elevator, if you want to go up, you push the button that points up and it brings you the elevator so you can go up to the other floors.
That's right. A lot of buttons are used, as you said, to start machines, to make them do things. Some buttons we have special words for, like if you're typing on a computer, we don't call those things buttons. Those are called keys. All right, that's a keyboard, and you touch the keys to tell the computer what to do, but to turn on the computer, you would press the button to do things like that. And of course, nowadays, we have touch screens, right? A lot of things have touch screens, which don't require a button. But as you said, a button is used to make a machine work, to turn it on, turn it off, or to make it do special actions. All right, well, that's it for us. We're gonna be back with our closing wrap-up, so we'll see you very, very soon, right back here in this time, not in another future time.
Hopefully we won't get zapped back to.
Well, if we do, we just won't be here. So maybe we'll see you, maybe we won't.